Good afternoon from the Porsche Pro over here at Porsche Ocala, and today I'm excited to go over, of course, the new 992.2 generation, or of course more commonly known as the 2025 Porsche 911. Now this one is going to be the facelifted version, of course, so this is going to be a base Carrera, but it is going to have the larger turbos from the Carrera S, as well as, of course, the larger brakes from the Carrera S, which is really nice. So really good improvements, of course, styling changes, technology changes, really sharp. I know it's going to get asked in the comments, but this car is going to be finished in slate gray Neo. Really sharp color, and actually shows very well on camera. It's pretty realistic to what it looks like in real life when I'm looking through the camera here. Of course, classic wheel design, very nice. Just doing a little walk around before we start going over stuff. Now going to this new generation of 911, of course, the key hasn't changed, which is I always love. Keeping things simple. Unlocking, locking the car, and popping the trunk right over here, and flipping this puppy over. You have this little button right over here, and of course, to set off the panic alarm. Opening up the trunk, of course, we could use the key fob to do it, but there is also a hand gesture. It's a little windy today. But you just kind of swipe your hand right across this area right over here, and it's going to pop the trunk for you. So I'm going to go ahead and cheat and do it. And then there's a little latch, and I'm always very peculiar to tell people when they're swiping this, sometimes it's better to do it down, but don't use your ring hand just in case so you don't scratch the paint. Inside over here, there's really not much to discuss. Our air pump has changed location, so now it's located on the left-hand side. It used to be located under this cowling, which was a little always interesting to get to, and not many people even knew it existed. And then over on the right side, of course, we have our tool kit, our fix-a-flat kit, our little tow hook right here, our wheel lock. Very important to know where the wheel lock is, of course, in case you ever need it. And then, of course, we have our windshield wiper fluid right over there. And then closing this, of course, you have to do it the traditional way. You latch it first, and then push on the badge to finish the latching process. Of course, coming back around, unlocking and locking the car is also very easy. To unlock it, you just reach for the door handle, and of course the door handle will pop up. There is even expanded comfort access, which does this, kind of pops open the door handle as you get close to it. And then to lock it, you just kind of put your finger right over here, and I kind of do a little drag motion just to make sure it locks, but you'll hear it beep, no problems at all. Also want to show up how to gas up the car. Even after all these years of me being with Porsches, and of course, I still always pull up way too far in the 911s. The gas cap is located on the front right-hand corner. So I always end up pulling too far and I can't reach it. But as long as the car's unlocked, you can just open up the fuel door, no problems. Give it a little twist, set in the slot. And if you put it like this, when you twist it, the Porsche will always be upright. So I'm always picky about that. Now let's go ahead and head on to the inside of the car. I want to make sure we go over all the little details because, of course, a facelift, there's minor changes, but I always like to show them off. So one important factor, if you ever need to get to the back seat of a 911, a lot of people try to pull this straight out, almost like a weed whacker thing. Pull it at the angle that it's sitting at. So you see it's a kind of a slightly upward angle. That's the angle you should pull it at, and then you have access to the back seats over here. I'm always picky about those seat belts being over the loops. That's how you don't get rattles and stuff. But very nice. Of course, you get the ISO fixes for the car seats and stuff down below. Well, let's go ahead and point down over here. Of course, popping the trunk from inside the vehicle, as we discussed earlier, is going to be right here. And then popping the little engine bay is right over here, in case you need to fill coolant or oil. Window control, of course, all automatic, down to go down, and up to go up. And the mirror adjustment's also very simple. You just select which mirror you want to adjust, and then this will allow to actually adjust it. And then, of course, this little button's going to fold in the mirrors. And there's an inherent delay when you hit the button again to unfold them. You can see I've already hit it, and it takes a little bit, and that's perfectly normal. Door locks right over here. Nothing has changed there. And then, of course, our seat memory. So once you have everything set, including our seat adjustments, which we're going to go over that, we have our thigh support right over here, which is our front leg extension. Our forward back. Height, if you lift it from the back end of it. And then tilt of the seat, if you lift it from the front end. Right there. Our pitch of our back right over here. And then this over here is our lumbar support. Push it forward to extend it out. And then up and down to move it up and down. Now, if you had the 18-way seats, you would have two extra little toggle switches like this over here. The one that would be located right here would be for thigh support. It kind of shrinks this in for you. And then the one right over here would be for your bolster support right over here. Pretty useful. Let's go ahead and hop on in. Now, underneath the steering column, it's going to be very hard to show, but I'm directly underneath everything. This is how you adjust the steering wheel. They did make the electronic steering column standard again, which I'm very happy to see. But I always say you kind of grab it like you're grabbing a bass. So I hook my thumb in there and kind of grab it, and then I push it down, like that, to go down, up to go up, pull it towards me to go forward, and back to go back. If you're a fisherman, it'll help out a lot. Let's go ahead and close off that windy day here. Our headlight operation has changed ever so slightly. So you have this little button right over here, but the operation is still going to be the same. So you're going to hit auto, and you'll see all the different selections of headlights. So you just keep hitting the button, and now you're in low beam, which manually turns on your headlights. Parking lights, more of a European thing. We don't really use those in the States. And then if you don't want headlights at all, you keep them off. But we're going to leave those in automatic. And they finally distinguished the fog lights right over here for being for the rear. Of course, the Porsches, well, since the 997 generation, really hasn't had front fog lights. So this little button, all it's going to be is for the rear fog lights. I'm going to go ahead and reposition the car a little bit while I keep on discussing. Our turn signals, nothing has changed right over there. So that's all still the same, which is very nice. There we go. Just don't want the sun on me. So, of course, our turn signal's still all the same right over there. Nothing crazy. And of course, high beam operation, we do have automatic high beams as well. So as long as you see that symbol, your high beams are now automatic. You don't have to worry about a thing. Our cruise control stock is slightly different. So we have this little button right over here to turn it off and on. Very simple. There's our adaptive cruise. And then in setting this speed now, and I always just leave the whole system on, you just go up to the speed you want, and instead of pushing it forward, you're going to lift it up or down. Either way, we'll set the speed, no problems at all. So really easy. And then, of course, increasing its speed. If you want to raise the speed, you lift it up again. If you want to drop the speed, you're going to drop it down. And then from there, of course, this is an adaptive cruise control, so it speeds up and slows down based on cars in front of you. But if you want to change that follow distance, so obviously bringing the squares closer means you're going to follow closer, and pushing them further away means you're going to follow further away. And then we lastly have a little button right under here. And what that's going to do is if you press and hold it, trying to get the camera to focus there. There we go. No. There it is. So that's going to turn off our lane departure warning and our lane keep assist. So if you start drifting from the lane, the car's not going to make a noise or well, it won't make a noise, but it'll kind of vibrate the steering wheel and fight you back. So if you want that, perfectly fine. If you don't, you can turn it off on the fly. Left side of the steering wheel, obviously we have our downshift paddle shifter, and then of course our paddle increase for paddle shifter. I can't think of the words right now for some reason. And on the left side of the steering wheel, we're mainly going to talk about, of course, our voice commands right over here. Now, if you're just using normal Porsche operation, you just tap this. This little pop-up pops up. Tell the car what you want it to do, and you can hit the button again to cancel it. If you are using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, holding the button will activate, of course, your corresponding personal assistant from your cell phone. Bixby, Cortana, I'm assuming Google, and then, of course, Siri. Volume for the radio is here, or down over here. That's all still the same. Next station, and of course we have one of our first Joker buttons right over here, which are programmable buttons. I typically just set this one as previous station to keep it easy. I have a lot of people that set it to show the surround view camera, things like that. Over here, of course, we have answer and hang up phone calls, which is really nice and easy to operate. These three buttons are now going to be of a lot more importance on this car than they were on the previous generation, because now we have the fully digital tachometer. So it's still the same operation. You have this little button that changes what you can customize right here. But since nothing is happening, that means I can't really customize this page. So I'm just going to spin the wheel. Ah, okay. So now we have our central tach. And this kind of looks like the older 992.1s. So now when I hit this button at the end, now I get the blue highlight that's going left, middle, right. Now, if it's on the left and I spin the wheel, I'm going to kind of zoom out so you guys can see it at the same time. If I'm on the left and I spin the wheel, it changes what I see on the left, lo and behold. And if I'm on the right, it changes what I see on the right. It really is that simple. The only thing that gets a little interesting is if you're on the middle, because it changes the whole display. So now we're at our adaptive cruise control thing, so we can see what's going on with adaptive cruise. Our map, smaller map. Our full screen map. This one I love. It reminds me of like an old race car. Of course, we have kind of a low starting position tachometer. tire pressure and temperatures on the left, just basic information, fuel range, coolant temp, oil temp, really cool. And this is probably where I would leave it. I absolutely love this new display. Down over here, of course, we're going to have our most important dial, in my opinion, and button. So whenever you turn the car, you're always in a normal drive mode. No way around that, very simple. Twist it to the left, and we enter wet mode. Now, wet mode, of course, is, and I've got to drive this at the track over in Arizona, or Alabama, my apologies, and they put us on wet concrete with overinflated tires, and you can put your foot all the way down the throttle, and it won't even so much as chirp a tire. So it's really good for maybe somebody that's not used to driving a sports car or anything like that, or driving in the rain. Back to normal. Sport mode, throttle response is going to sharpen up, exhaust is going to get louder, of course, stiffen the suspension a little bit. It changes the entire driving dynamics of the car. And then, of course, if you do have sports chrono, which they started making that clock the kind of way to tell now, you do have a Sport Plus mode, which will stiffen the suspension further, sharpen the throttle response even more, maintain boost in between gear changes. It does some really cool little changes, and then we go back to normal. The little button right over here, it's called the Sport Response button. Essentially, I call it the push to pass button. You're just driving along on the road and you're like, oh, I got to take this exit or I got to get around this joker. And you hit this little guy right over here. The car, you'll get instantaneous response and performance for 20 seconds. You can say, all right, I'm done. Cancel it whenever you want. No problems. Windshield wipers are exactly the same. I always say, just do a little test. I push them all the way down. If they spring back up, I know that the system is off. That's where we're going to start off. To put them in automatic, all I'm going to do is just lift it up one position from here. We're going by this codex here. So we started off with off, and we're going into intermittent, or intermediate, whatever is preferred. And in this mode, it is going to be automatic. Obviously, pulling it towards you will wash the front, and that's about it. This little dial right over here is a sensitivity for automatic windshield wipers. Now, another big benefit is they made a hidden button that a lot of people, even if they had the option, didn't know how to operate, standard. And that's going to be the heated steering wheel. So in between the bottom spoke, you can either go like this or this. You hit this little button, and your heated steering wheel comes on. And hit it again, it turns off. Pretty cool. Very simple. Coming over here to our AC controls. Very simple. Nothing has really changed over here. We have our front and rear windshield defrost. Temperature on the driver's side. Temperature on the passenger side. Fan speed for both, of course. AC max for hot days. And then auto, of course. Now, auto maintains the fan speed and where the air should be coming out for you. So all you have to do is tell the car what temperature you want, and it'll handle the rest. Now, I have a trick. If you notice, sync turned off when I adjusted this temperature. So now if I adjust this one, it's all independent. There is a trick that if I hit AC max, give it about like half a second, then hit auto, it resyncs them back up instead of having to go into the system and doing it in there. So just saves a little bit of time and extra and so on. Down over here, of course, our gear selector, still exactly the same. I always say, if you look here, it may confuse you, but if you're used to BMWs or Porsches, it's kind of the norm now. I always end up looking over here in the dash. So we have park, and there's a little blue arrow between neutral, reverse, and drive. So that tells me, okay, if I want reverse, I'm going to push this whole puppy up. And now I'm in reverse. Pull it straight down for drive. And then if I wanted a manual mode, I still have a button right over here. So I can just hit that for manual and P for park. And that's as simple as that. Some other little controls over here. Of course, we have previous station and next station. Volume for the radio right over here. Nothing has changed there. This little dial on this side, I never use it. It was used on like a kind of a previous system. You could navigate it, but it was a little tricky. Pretty much all I use it for now is zooming in and out on the navigation and stuff. And if you're on a list of music, cycling through the list. But even then, you can just use your finger. So it's kind of redundant, but if you don't want fingerprints, it is a little bit more of a learning curve, but it is very useful. From there, we're going to come down to some more HVAC controls. So we have our ventilated and heated seats on both sides, of course. And then we're going to have our moonroof controls. Now, this one's for the screen, and I just always say it's a 50-50 shot. Just pull it up to close it, push it down to reopen the screen. This little button, of course, will open the glass, and of course the same one to close it. And this one will tilt the glass, so just kind of venting it out. That's about it there. Of course, parking brake right over here. It self-disengages and self-engages. You won't really need to worry about it anymore. But just in case, if you do want to turn it off, you put your foot in the brake, push it down, and lift it up. Think of an old-fashioned handbrake. Just lifting it up or pushing it down. Simple there. Over here, of course, this is all going to be dependent on what options you have on this car. So if you don't have sports exhaust and you don't have the front axle lift, you'll have 2 extra joker buttons to program. This one has sports exhaust but no front axle lift, so we only have 1. Perfectly fine. So, and if you also have sports chrono, you also get to keep them. But if you don't, things get weird. They could be all dependent on your options. So we have a joker button that we can program right over here. Our sports exhaust, hazards, traction control, and then if you have sports chrono, if you hold this for about half a second, you'll put it into PSM Sport, Porsche Stability Management in Sport, a loosened system that lets you have a little bit of fun, but will, of course, still bring you back if you start getting too wacky. And if you hold it, it will fully disable it, and I will highly suggest probably not doing that unless you're a professional driver. That means the car will not help you no matter what happens. You're on your own. And then we're going to have suspension stiffness right over here, of course, which changes on the drive mode, but you can control it independently. Last little bits we're going to talk about, which I am super excited for, they brought back garage door buttons. So underneath the mirror, they're very hard to see, but we have 1, 2, and 3. Hit the little button, and you can start the initialization of programming garage doors. Garage doors are always tricky to program, people. There's too many variations for me to even do a singular video on. It's just too much. So, but consult with either your dealer or give me a call if you need help programming. I'll be happy to help you. All right. Over here, of course, we do have our SOS button. Hit that right over there. If you ever have a problem, flat tire, running out of gas, anything like that. This little button, of course, turns on the light here, and this one over here. That's about it. But now we get into the main infotainment display. And luckily, things are very similar to what we're already used to. Just minor changes. So the main core ones, we're going to go over are navigation, media, phone, and vehicle. So starting off with navigation, it's still exactly the same. So all I do is if I want to search for a new destination, I hit search for new destination. If it's someplace I've already been, it will be listed right over here. And if I want to add a home address, I can do that right there. And this is the dealership, so save. Simple. If it's someplace I haven't been and I want to go there, I just search it right at the top. And I have little tricks. I always do Starbucks as an example, or Cracker Barrel or something. And so, now here's a trick. If I were to hit it right over here, it would immediately take me to the address. Instead, if I hit OK, I can see in relation to me where the nearest ones are. And then you also have these little dots to the right. So if I hit these little dots, you get some more stuff, such as phone numbers, starting guidance, nearby shops and stuff like that, and some other details that if you have the Porsche Connect account set up, you can actually see like street views and things like that. It's really cool. But for now, we're going to go ahead and just start our guidance there.
Then immediately turn right. The route is being calculated.
There we go. And then if I don't want it anymore, I just hit this little guy right here. But this will show me all my traffic information, what time I'm going to arrive, everything like that. Very simple operation. Media is a lot easier in my opinion. They did kind of fine-tune it a little bit, and now I'm a big fan of this system. So starting off, you have your sources at the top, and you can customize those, you can rearrange them, everything like that. But if you're on FM radio, you can go next station, previous station. You can favorite the station, and if you wanted a list of all the stations, you can hit list. Great. Simple as that. If there's a station you want to save or anything, you just go to it and favorite it. And remove it if you don't want it. And then changing the source, if you hit SiriusXM, all channels, it's the exact same thing. It's just a lot more responsive, and now you could favorite a lot easier from the list page. Before, you had to kind of know just to hold it, and it was kind of a secret, but now it's a lot better. Bose, of course, if you're going to adjust the treble and radio and everything like that, the treble and bass. I always do surround, not linear. This is supposed to help with compressed music. I think it's a little hissy, but depending on your age, of course, your high pitch can be a lot different. I always do -2, +2, and leave it. From here, we're going to talk about phone. Now, phone is the easiest page on the whole car. Once you have your phone hooked up, you're going to have keypad for keypad, call history for calls you've made or missed, and contacts for contacts. It really is that simple. And of course, you can voice command and say, call John Smith. All you have to do is remember to say the actual contact name. So if you have John Smith under as Johnny, you got to remember to call him Johnny when you ask to call him. From here, we're going to talk about the vehicle page. And even then, a little icon, they changed that to look like the new 992.2, which is really nice. The drive page, nothing is really changed in here, of course. It's the exact same thing as changing the drive modes. It just shows you what's actually being changed, which is pretty cool. Spoiler extension right over here if you wanted to raise that up. Assistance, now this page, there is a lot more to discuss in here because we do have our adaptive cruise control. Since this one has InnoDrive, you can come over here if you want the InnoDrive to adapt the speed limits automatically, speed up and slow down based on cornering, if you want to maintain the lane keep. So there's lane departure, which waits for you to make the mistake. Think of it, it waits for you to depart from the lane before correcting you. Lane keep keeps the lane. It holds you in it. Additional functions, there is some new stuff. Speed warning just illuminates on the left side of the screen over here. If I go to it, this will illuminate and kind of flash red if you ever start exceeding the speed. Acoustic if you want a audible warning when you exceed the speed. Warning and brake assist, of course, if it can prevent the accident, it will. Lane keep assist, that's the one we've discussed. Lane departure warning is another one we've discussed. You can even set the parameters of it. If you permanently want it off, this is where you go to disable that. So you're going to hit off. And now it won't ever bug you again. Like that. Lane change assist is your blind spot detection. Simple. Little yellow light right there. Distance warning, that's the warning if you're following somebody too close and say, hey, you're about to crash into them. You can set the parameters on that. Proactive occupant protection, if it detects a possible accident, it's going to tighten the seatbelt and kind of prepare things to help, of course, minimize the driver damage and stuff like that. Brake recommendations, you start getting a little tired, you start getting a little wave in your lane, it'll warn you, hey, watch out. This one I haven't personally seen, but it's supposed to warn you if maybe there's an object in the road or who knows, we don't have this problem here in Florida, but a landslide took down a road, or I guess in Florida for flooding or something, just to warn you, hey, there is something going on, be careful. Wet detector will automatically detect if it's raining out heavily and warn you, hey, probably put on wet mode. That's all the safety functions. Trip is just trip computers. I really don't spend much time in here. Comfort is where we're going to come to for ambient lighting and stuff. Now, there is some other functions in here. If you want to adjust the heat seat, like the heated seat balance, like you want it more on your back versus the bottom. Same thing with the ventilation for both the driver and passenger. Comfort entry, allow, like when you get in and out of the car, it scoots the seat back a little bit and the steering wheel up so you can get in and out easier. And adjust passenger seats, kind of a weird function. So if somebody was sitting in the passenger seat, they really screwed up where that seat was. If you hit that button that I just showed you, and I adjust the driver's seat, now it's moving the passenger seat. It's not moving mine, it's just moving the passenger. So I don't have to reach all the way over there or get out or do anything. I can just move it right from here. But ambient lighting is the big one that has changed. So we have them on, but we have a much larger variety of color over here. Now, dynamic would adjust to the album art of the music you're listening to, but I can drag this to whatever color I want. And obviously this is a red interior, so I'm probably going to make it red, keep it boring and simple. But that's about it. And you can adjust the color or, of course, the brightness in each of the zones, which is really neat. And that's about it there. Climate, we're going to spend a very short amount of time in here. All I do is I make sure this little top vent is on. That seems to be the one that really blows on you. If you weren't in auto, you can come over here and choose where you want the air to come from. Down over here, if you wanted no AC at all, no fans, no AC at all, no AC compressor, just fans. Sync, we already showed you the trick for that. Air circulation right over here. And then, of course, ionizer. So if you're an allergy-filled mess like I am, hitting ionizer really helps. It charges the air particles so they fall down to the ground. Essentially, you won't see dust in the car or pollen floating around. It just kind of falls to the ground, and you vacuum up the car, and you're good. Notifications, we're not going to worry about. Parking, is camera system, of course. There is a self-parking system, but it needs its own video. Coming down from there, now we do have a new one, performance. Now this is really cool. So if I push on the brake, you get literally like all the telemetry data, I almost feel like I'm playing Forza or something, of what's going on in the car as you're driving. You can see slip indicators, understeer indicators, traction issues, stability issues. I can see tires, temperatures, pressures. You can see I'm overinflated a little bit, but we're on 2021 summer tires, everything like that. And then drive mode, you can even see torque stuff. Look, like a little dynamometer. And even for power for your kilowatts. It's super cool. So it's a new page, and I really like to show that off. But other than that, that's going to conclude this video. It's a very easy car, and it is absolutely very nice little changes done to it. Of course, minor things are glove box, not really much to discuss in there. You'll be amazed how many people aren't aware that there is a second cup holder over here, so I always want to point that out. But if you do have any questions on this car, please leave a comment below or give me a contact. I am happy to get all your questions answered and taken care of. Other than that, we look forward to hearing from you over here. And thank you for watching, and have a great day. Take care.